Hello, good day, and welcome, everyone. Okay, I think we have most people joining. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar is an introductory webinar in preparation for the Latin American Caribbean hands-on training on the reporting of national inventory reports under the ETF. And so this is the introductory webinar to the in-person workshop that we'll be having in Bogotá, Colombia in 2 weeks, July 23rd to the 25th. Welcome, everyone. Just a few housekeeping before we fully start. This webinar will be recorded and the material will be available on the Climate Transparency platform. So in the meantime, kindly keep your microphone on mute, and during presentations and interventions, you can type your questions in the chat function and also raise your hand. So time will be allocated after each speaker to address any questions that you may have. And when you are speaking, we ask that you kindly identify yourself, put your name and country for those who are joining on audio only. So thanks so much for those who are joining us, who are just coming in. I will just give a brief overview of the agenda for this morning, and then I will hand it off to our colleague from the Partnership on Transparency in the Paris Agreement, Mr. Tim Bantel, to give us an opening and welcome. So today's webinar will be just about 2 hours long, and mainly we will be explaining the main stages of the training, the upcoming in-person training in Bogotá, Colombia, giving an overview of the new requirements for reporting of greenhouse gas inventories under the ETF, looking at a short version and abridged version of the common reporting tables, a very short version of the UNFCCC tools available for reporting on inventories, and then discuss the following stages of this training, right? What are the next steps before we get to Colombia? And then, of course, a final survey. But now I would like to hand it off to our colleague Tim from PAPA to open us up. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Brittany, and hello, everyone. I'm not going to use many words. I just would like to quickly introduce myself and welcome you to this webinar. I think most of you don't know me yet. My name is Tim Bantel. I'm the new coordinator for Latin America and the Caribbean at PATPA, at the Partnership for Transparency in the Paris Agreement. And PATPA and CBIT, both of us are both organizations, have been jointly organizing the workshop at the end of this month in Colombia. And we hope that the workshop will be useful for you to move forward and finalize the BTRs on time until the end of the year, and that this webinar will be a good start and a good preparation for the workshop. And if you have any questions or any doubts, Brittany and myself, we're going to be happy to answer them and receive them. And yes, without any further words and further ado, I would give back. I'd like to give back to Brittany. And thank you for being here, and see you very soon in Colombia. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. And thanks for opening up for us. Yes. Both PATPA, CBIT, GSP, and the government of Colombia are coordinating this training and this introductory webinar. So I will now So let me just go through some of the main objectives, the content, and the format of this training, what we should be expecting throughout the training from this introductory phase up until we see you in Bogotá. But just to give some background, greenhouse gas inventory submissions are a mandated part of the ETF under the Paris Agreement. And so this includes planning, preparing, and managing inventories in a transparent, coherent, comparable, and accurate way. And so the modalities, procedures, and guidelines that have been developed under the Paris Agreement now define new requirements for reporting on inventories in the new and upcoming biennial transparency report and the national inventory report. And so this takes the form of a national inventory document and the common reporting tables in combination for those submissions. So some countries already have experience in developing their greenhouse gas inventories on reporting. However, the use of the new common reporting tables can become a challenge to countries who have less experience in this area and without the tools and capacity to do so. So this is an important part of your upcoming submission. So this is what this webinar and these series of trainings are aimed to cover. So in this concept, and as Tim already mentioned, the CIVIT GSP, PATPA, and the Government of Colombia are co-organizing this training for the preparation of submission of national inventory reports under the ETF and aimed at improving the capacities of the national technical team. So all of you here have been registered to either attend the training in Colombia or are experts who have been nominated by your national teams. And to briefly go over the objectives of today's session and the overall training, the objective is really to support the country teams in the Latin American, Caribbean countries within these two networks who are in charge of the national inventory reporting and how to improve the technical contents of the national inventory reports and their BTR. So the training will be quite hands-on. It will be of technical nature, and it will be providing, some of the concrete situations for preparing and reporting of national inventories. There will be opportunities to exchange experiences and lessons learned in the application of tools and systems for how to report inventory data under the ETF, and also identify some common challenges and opportunities to have South-South cooperation. So this is the idea, and it will be quite hands-on. You'll note that throughout the training, it will be focused on the ability to report what are those particular needs. And so you may have seen this diagram already, but this is the approach of the phase. So today we are starting with an introductory webinar, and the idea is that all of the participants who are registered to join us in Bogotá at the end of the month will get a introduction to some of the core concepts that we'll be covering over our 3-day face-to-face event, because as much background as you'll need to prepare yourselves for the in-country training. And then up until July 22nd, we will be collecting country information in templates to facilitate exercises that will be done in person, which will take us to our face-to-face event from the 23rd to the 25th of July this month. And then on stage 4, we will follow up after the face-to-face training and provide feedback as a mechanism to provide feedback for any of the exercises and any of the work that has been done through the face-to-face training. So I mentioned that today's webinar will cover the introductory elements of what we'll be learning in the face-to-face training. So that's looking at the ETF requirements, going from BURs to BTRs, the common reporting tables, and looking at some of the UNFCCC tools available for reporting on inventories. And then Fernando will explain this later, but the in-country data collection, what will be necessary to gather the information necessary for the in-person training. And so this will be a critical stage for the success of the in-person training, to have your country-specific data available to work on these exercises and to fill in the templates provided. And we went through already the objectives for the in-person training. I will be working with you all hands-on to work on some of the greenhouse gas inventory management tools, work plans, improvement plans, data systems, etc. And we'll be also having an entire day focusing on the UNFCCC ETF reporting tool, which will be a crucial element of your next greenhouse gas inventory submission for your BTR. And also practical exercises and sharing of experience from across the regions, from the Spanish-speaking Latin America, as well as the broader English-speaking Caribbean. And then the follow-up, so consolidation of the learning from the training, and reach out to participants for additional guidance and review of outcomes. And so this is where your country engagement will be essential, and we're looking forward to it. So that is in summary the objectives of the approach that we'll be taking from this webinar into the training in Colombia at the end of the month. And if there are any questions or doubts, please feel free to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand if we can address any questions on the process. If there are no questions on the process at this moment, you can always put it in the chat and we can address it. We can address it as we go along. But in the meantime, then I would like to hand the floor over to my colleague, Fernando Farias from the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center, to take us through what are the ETF requirements.
Hello, colleagues. I was talking without voice, but now I hope you can hear me. My name is Fernando. I'm from Chile. I will be part of the team of trainers in Bogotá. I've been part also of the team of trainers in previous trainings conducted in different regions of the world regarding this same inventory issue. And then moving to the topic on new requirements for the reporting on the inventories under the enhanced transparency framework. We all know how important are the GHG inventories for complying with the Paris Agreement. It's not only a matter of reporting, but the whole concept of NDC tracking relies heavily both on the national GHG inventories, but also on the projections. National GHG inventories will allow us to learn how we are progressing and give us like the picture of the present and the past, whereas the projections will allow us to check how we are expected to progress towards complying with the commitments under the Paris Agreement. But there are some news in terms of reporting inventories. Probably some of you have been part of the teams that prepared previous GAG inventory that were presented under a national communication or a biennial update report. Now the situation is slightly different in terms that although we have the same chapter under this biennial transparency report, we also have the possibility to produce what is called a national inventory report that comprises national inventory documents and the common reporting tables. We will have the opportunity to work closely on both of them during these 3 days. So we generally expect that several of your current questions or ideas on how to develop your chapters of the inventory or your NIR will be covered by the work we will do together in Bogotá. What is important is that we will cover the new software, which was prepared by the UNEP CCC to facilitate the reporting of GAG inventory data for the countries, considering now the MPGs are requiring to present not individual years, but time series with data of a number of years. So the process of filling these common reporting tables will be greatly simplified by the use of this reporting software that will be presented by our colleagues in a summary form in this webinar and in an extended version during the day 3 of the training in Bogotá. What is important also is that we will have the opportunity to work on the national inventory document. As such, probably you know there is already an outline for this national inventory document that is not mandatory to follow by the countries, but if the countries follow, there will be much security that all the elements contained in the MPGs regarding the reporting of inventories will be covered in your inventory chapter. We will also have the opportunity to discuss more on flexibility opportunities or flexibility provisions that parties have if they require to use these flexibility provisions. We will try to guide you on how to do to the best way, having in mind that flexibility provisions, I will move to the next one. Sorry. Having in mind that the flexibility provisions are an opportunity, but also a responsibility. It's a responsibility, it's an opportunity, because if countries are not prepared to submit all the information that is required to all of the parties of the Paris Agreement, and which I will say is in terms of quantity and terms of quality is much higher than in previous reportings under the national communications or the BOR. They will have the opportunity, countries will have the opportunity to use flexibility, but it's also a responsibility, since flexibility provisions need to be informed how, when countries will stop using these flexibility provisions and on when are they are expecting to stop using flexibility provisions, and they must inform also why they are using flexibility provisions. So it is not only a matter of using the flexibility provisions, but from a more strategical point of view, it is good also to check which flexibility provisions are more likely to be implemented in the near future. During the training, we will have the opportunity to do some comparisons with the information probably you are most familiar regarding the preparation of the inventory under the national communications or the BUR, compared with what is required now under the MPGs. We are expecting to have a very exercise-orientated training and give the opportunity to interact and to make questions and to see what other countries are doing regarding the implementation of their chapter of the inventory, and also to learn about the newest softwares available by the IPCC. The IPCC will show you the last version of the IPCC software, whereas UNFCCC will show you the reporting software that has been recently completed and it is ready to use. All of these elements and also the elements that are part of the national inventory document will be included into our training. Our idea is that you can have a big number of elements that will be useful for preparing a chapter of or a national inventory document that is the closest possible to comply with all the requirements. We know that there is this outline of a national inventory document, and it has a number of, in total, 10 chapters plus annexes under the main topics that the MPGs require to provide information. But we expect that we will navigate. We have a specific template that will be particularly useful for countries to use and develop a national inventory document that, although it might be like a complex document, because as far as we know, national inventory documents are from 400 pages up to near 1,000 pages. For such a massive document, then it is much better to have a guide, and this will be one of the elements we will provide as a part of the training. We will also go with the common reporting tables. Our idea during the 2 first days will be to use these tables and to understand what is inside the tables. We don't want this to be like a black box where you don't know what are you inputting. And we understand that the software for reporting is a very valuable tool, but it is always good to learn what is inside the software, and with a more thorough analysis of the common reporting tables, we expect that you will have the opportunity to learn more on a better reporting of the inventory. With this, I'm closing this starting presentation. I'm looking forward to have a very thorough, complete training in Bogotá. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Thanks, Fernando, for giving that introduction to what we should be expecting and looking at the national inventory document and what that will entail for countries when we meet in Bogotá. So this is just a reminder to everyone as well. I have enabled mics and cameras as well. If you have the need to raise a question on mic or on chat to Fernando, But we will have a break following the next presentation, giving the introduction to the common reporting tables, where you can raise questions for both Fernando, myself, Tim, and others on the process or on any of the technical elements so far. But in the meantime, then, I will proceed to the next part of the agenda, giving the abridged version of the common reporting tables. So Fernando took us through what are some of the new ETF requirements, and he also mentioned that apart from the national inventory document, there is the need for countries to report on their common reporting tables. So I will do my best to be comprehensive, but not, but also what is digestible within the webinar, because noting that we will have 3 days to go through this in training. So to introduce the common reporting tables, this was established under Decision 18 CMA 1, so of the Paris Agreement, stating that each party shall provide a national inventory report of anthropogenic emissions for sources and sinks of their greenhouse gas inventories. And the national inventory report should consist of a national inventory document that Fernando briefly went through, in addition to common reporting tables. So each party shall, and so this means that this is a mandatory requirement for all parties, estimate their emissions from all categories, gases, and pools, and at the most disaggregated level. And this is and this would be adopted then and be able to be reported through common reporting tables, which was adopted under Decision 5 CMA 3. So, and the common reporting tables refer to the chapter 2 of the annex of the Decision 18. So that is this, and so this annex, which is the annex, will describes the common reporting tables for the electronic reporting of information. And so this is what we'll take you through in summary of what are the different tables that are required, what are the different levels of aggregation, and you'll also see this be explained by our colleague from the UNFCCC, who will take us through the reporting tool. So to provide an overview of the common reporting tables, these are a standardized set of reporting tables that all parties must submit under the reporting requirements of the MPGs. So this is one of the mandatory elements for all parties, and they build on the common reporting format tables, which were tables that Annex 1 parties, developing parties under the UN Climate Change Convention have been reporting for many years to report their annual GHG inventories. So there is some experience in reporting on national inventories using these common reporting formats. However, and especially developed countries would have this experience for reporting in their CRF tables annually, but now those have been adapted and now suiting the requirements of the MPGs for all parties to complete using now the common reporting tables. And so the key characteristic of this is commonality. It's important to note that the CRTs ensure that the use of consistent categories and definitions by all parties. So to have this comparability from developed countries to developing countries across all countries is the core element. And it is prepared for the electronic reporting of information in the National Inventory Report. So it is mainly to capture what are the comparable elements between countries reporting, and it helps to dispel any issues that dispel any confusions that could potentially arise from a purely narrative document. So it puts all the data for all sectors and categories defined in the MPGs based on the IPCC 2006 guidelines. And parties also have the option to add country-specific categories to their common reporting tables. And Fernando introduced this concept. The two main elements that will comprise of your national submission, your national inventory report, would be a combination of the national inventory document, which is the descriptive narrative information on your greenhouse gas inventory, in addition to your common reporting tables, which is the quantitative information, those that are able to facilitate this comparability between countries. And the structure of the CRTs contain the reported figures of the national inventory document. So it's describing the full description of data, what are the methods and assumptions, the source of information. And it's really a set of Excel workbooks, of Microsoft Excel workbooks containing 60 sheets for each reported year. And there are 3 types of tables for each year. And Nasheed will go through this in more detail. But there are different levels of the common reporting tables. So you have your background tables, which are orange cells, your sectoral reporting tables, which are the green cells and green tables, and your summary and cross-sectoral tables in blue. And we'll take a look at each of these. And these tables are color-coded for a reason. And so all colored shaded cells would automatically be completed by the software, the ETF reporting tool. And where there are unshaded cells in white, those must be filled in by parties. And so they should either contain a number, a figure, or a standard notation key. So it's important to note that in these common reporting tables that there are no blank cells, that they should either have a value or a notation key. But we'll be going through some of those in a few. And where the cells are shaded gray, they should not be filled in, as this information is expected to not be applicable. So this is taking a look at the level 3, the sectoral background data tables, and these tables require detailed information on emissions, removals, and activity data relevant to the specific category, either of the IPCC categories. And so the idea is that this data is filled in by the inventory compiler. And so as you can see here, this is a table on enteric fermentation, so on livestock. So where the white cells are would be where the activity data is supposed to be entered, right? Here, activity data and other related information. So this is where we fill in your activity data and your emissions, right? And calculated emissions. And then there are exceptions where cells would be summed up at each category level, the summing of either activity data or the emissions, and also a place where the software would calculate what the implied emission factors are. And if you take a look at the second level, the sectoral reporting tables, this is the level 2 aggregates the data from the sectoral background data tables. And so this is supposed to be one level 2 table for each sector. So each sector, energy, IPPU, agriculture, the LULUCF, and the waste sector will have their tables. And so emissions are reported on a mass basis and also on the CO2 equivalent basis. So this is an example of a sectoral reporting table for the agriculture sector. And so this is by sector, and for each year, what the different emissions in kilotons would be. And then this is just to highlight here, wherever you see there is white space, this would indicate that there is some need for entering either data or a notation key, right? Whether this data is available or this data is not available in the country, this category is not available in the country, or otherwise you put the appropriate notation key. And this is another example of a sectoral report table, and this one is in the waste sector, and it's simply showing the data that is required, which is your emissions in kilotons, and then your total emissions in CO2 equivalents once you've used once you've calculated it using your global warming potential. And then on the final level, the summary and cross-cutting tables, there are various types of tables that cover summary and cross-cutting information from the greenhouse gas inventory. So the summary 1 tables, which is the summary report for the greenhouse gas inventory, the summary 2, which takes a look at the CO2 equivalent emissions using the global warming potential factor that is used. Summary 3 is for methods and emission factors used, and then there are various cross-cutting tables which will contain higher level of information that would be completed by the software, in addition to a flexibility table. So I won't go into detail into all of these tables because we will have time. We will have time in the training, and in addition, in our next speaker will give us a more comprehensive look. But I will just go through what some of these look like. So this is summary 1 table, which is a summary report for your national GHG. So this will include your total GHG emissions for the year and then there's also a place where you can include what the emissions are using your global warming potential, right, from the 5th assessment report. This is summary 2 table, which is a summary report for capturing what the CO2 equivalent emissions are. And this is summary 3, showing what the methods and emission factors use. So this is also important for capturing the quality, and you're able to do more quality control on capturing what exact emission factors were used for your inventory. A table on key categories, which we won't go through, but also important to capture for each inventory year. And on trends, so over time, what are the emission trends captured in CO2 equivalents. And an important table to capture for countries who choose to use their flexibility provisions to capture what MPG flexibility provision was used for what year, sector, category, and gas, and describe how this was used. So this is an important table for countries who are using to opt into flexibility conditions for reporting, which may be the case for various of us. And just to summarize now, and I'm coming to the end of this portion of this presentation. But just to give a little idea of what flexibility can look like in common reporting tables. So under the MPGs, it's been established that developing country parties that need flexibility in light of their capacities may use the notation key FX for flexibility. You're able to collapse relevant rows and columns where you have applied flexibility. And it is important to note that, however, wherever a party is using a flexibility notation, that it should be described, right? Explained in the corresponding table on the use of the flexibility, which I just had up on the screen. And then it's recorded in the flex summary box of the tables, of the set of tables. And it's important to note that countries and parties can prepare the common reporting tables using the ETF reporting tool, which our colleague from the Secretariat will explain to us in a few. And it's important to note also that common reporting tables are not a GHG inventory estimation tool, right? So this is a reporting tool, so parties would have already needed to estimate their greenhouse gas emissions, whether using your own national software or your own system or IPCC software, whichever it is that the country chooses to use. And then from that information, from that already estimated greenhouse gas inventory, is then where you generate your common reporting tables. So it's just to note that this is not a tool to do your calculations for you, but just to report comparably. And in summary, the common reporting tables essentially contain the emission and removals numerical data, so the quantitative data that have been used in the calculations from your greenhouse gas inventory, whereas the national inventory document describes how those emissions and removal estimates were obtained. And to note, to not forget, in the CRTs, the unshaded cells show data completed by parties, and in the gray shaded cells is information that is not expected to exist or be provided. And the color shaded cells are automatically completed by the software when parties submit their data. And so the CRT unshaded cells should be completed with either data, numerical values, numbers, or notation keys to meet the completeness requirements. So wherever there's a blank space, if there's not either a number or a notation key to indicate what that value should be, then it would not meet completeness requirements. And there are 3 levels of these CRT tables that we just went through. So with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention so far. I know this is new information for some of us, but we do encourage you to ask questions, seek clarification where needed, and we'd be happy to get back to you. So with that said, I would like to open the floor or see if anyone has any questions so far, either on national inventory document or the common reporting tables from either of the sessions from Fernando and I that we just completed. Okay. If there are no questions just yet, please put them in the chat. And just to ensure that we're all here, I'd like to also take this chance while you may be raising your questions to take a small photo to see the faces who we will be meeting in Bogotá at the end of this month. So if you have your cameras enabled and you are able to do so, join us on camera for 2 minutes and we'll take a short photo, and then I will hand it off to the next phase. I see our colleagues from across the Caribbean and South America and Europe. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much. And don't worry, there will be time to address these questions. I know that this might be some new information for some of us, and some of us may be already working on this. So maybe this is a question I have to colleagues here. Has anyone started with the preparation of their national greenhouse gas inventories for their BTR? Some of us, maybe not quite yet.
Yeah, I started.
Okay, thanks,
I
Kamoy.
started.
From Antigua. Excellent. Adalmi, please go ahead.
Hi, morning, Brittany, from Belize. Yes, we for the sector for forest sector, we have started incorporating the common reporting tables in our fundamental platform is where we estimate our greenhouse gas inventories. So this is quite important for us to seek more guidance and see if we are on the right track. Thank you.
Fantastic, excellent. So that's good to know, and good news. And I know we'll have lots of opportunities to hear more about the experience from Belize and Antigua. Suan from Trinidad, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. We have also started working on our inventories for the purposes of the BTR. It's the first time we're actually preparing it ourselves, because in the past it was done by consultants. So I think this training comes in a really good timing, because it'll help us in some of the areas we may be having some challenges currently. So I'm really looking forward to the week ahead. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Suan. And yeah, good luck and congratulations. That's a big step to start taking it entirely from the national team compiling the inventory. Okay. All right. Well done, everyone. Thank you. Please feel free, if you'd like, to keep your cameras on. But and also if you have any further questions along the way, you're welcome to take them off mic or in the chat. But it's also very nice to see some of these familiar faces, and looking forward to seeing most of you in Colombia soon. Okay, so with that said, I would like to now pass over to our colleague from the UNFCCC, Mr. Nasheed Kafle. Welcome. Thank you for joining us and being a part of these webinars to introduce our participants, our networks on what are the tools available from the Secretariat to support countries in their reporting. So I'd like to tell you welcome and thank you for joining, and I'll also hand it off to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany. And it is my pleasure to present in this webinar today, and then in around 10, 12 days to show this tool to you and show this tool to you how it works, and then how you can use this tool to start compiling your GAG inventories for submission to UNFCCC. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity to present in this webinar. And I'm Nasib Kafle, and I'm working in the Transparency Division of the UNFCCC Secretariat. And over the last 1.5 years, I have been working on developing the ETF GAG inventory reporting tools, right from the specifying the requirements, what needs to be there, and translating the MPGs to the IT developer to have them as an application so that you can start compiling your GAG inventories. And I think in the presentation before, Fernando and Brittany, they have already provided you a lot of context. So it would be easy for me to again reiterate those concepts that they have presented. And in today's webinar, with the limited time that we have, I will not go into all the details of showing you the tool and then working on the tool. When we are in Bogotá in 2 weeks, we'll be doing a lot of hands-on exercises for you to get familiar with this tool so that you know how to use this tool, how to start compiling. So all of these things we'll have a lot of exercises to do together. So it would be hands-on training where you will have access to the training version and then you will be doing the tool. So before I have a very brief presentation, maybe around 8 to 10 slides, not more than that. And before I move my slides, can you please confirm if you can see my slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So this is the agenda that I have. So initially, I'll just briefly provide the mandate, where this mandate came for the ETF reporting tools, and a brief reporting requirement for the GAG inventories under the Paris Agreement. Then touch upon what are the common reporting tables, and then I'll show you how the GAG inventory workflows and what is the relationship between IPCC software, ETF reporting tool, the CRT. So we have seen there is a lot of confusion. Why and what are these terminology and how they are interrelated. So I'll try to demystify a bit of that. And then towards the end, I'll give you some useful resources that you can use them to get familiar with the resources before coming for the hands-on training so that we will have a fruitful training when we meet in person. And then towards the end, you can ask me questions, like if there are any questions that you may have, you can ask the question, or you can still save the question and then we'll answer them live in person when we meet in person. But you can also, if you want to pose any questions, I have access to the chat, so you can also post the question in the chat so that I'll answer them towards the end. So first on my presentation, so the overview of the mandate to develop the ETF reporting tools. So the decision 18 CMA1, which is also called as the modalities, procedure and guidelines, the Substar requested in that the decision 18 CMA1 requested Substar to develop the MPGs for the common reporting tables and the common tabular format. And in decision 5 CMA3 in Glasgow, parties adopted the common reporting tables for reporting the GAG inventories and also the CTF tables for reporting the progress of NDCs and then the FTC support. And the same decision also requested the Secretariat to develop the reporting tools for reporting tools to report the GHG emissions as well as NDC progress and FTC support, taking into account the flexibility provisions in the MPGs for the developing countries that need them in light of their capacities. And then it requested the test version to be available by June 2023 and the final version by June 2024. And I'm happy to announce that we have released the final version of the tool on 28th of June. So now this tool can be used by parties to start compiling their GHG inventories. And then we have been also presenting the progress at each substar session. And then since the release of the last test version in August, the first test version in August, we have been providing a regular technical training workshop at the regional level, and then also organizing the live Q&A session for the parties to get familiar with these tools. And then the same decision also requested to facilitate the interoperability with the IPCC software. We are aware that many of the parties are using the IPCC software to compile their annual GHG inventories, at least to estimate the GHG emissions. So we have been working closely with IPCC so that the data that the parties have estimated in the IPCC software can be transferred to the ETF reporting tools for generating the CRTs. So this feature is already working between the IPCC software. So in the hands-on training that we will be doing in Bogotá, I will be also showing this feature of how you can transfer the data from the IPCC inventory software to the GHG inventory reporting tool. And the Secretariat has also published the mapping exercise between the 2006 IPCC guidelines and the CRT. So the CRT has a list of the in the worksheet of the CRTs. There are a list of the categories that are to be reported, the GHG for the GHG emissions, and those categories are slightly different than what we have in 2006 IPCC guide in the IPCC software and 2006 IPCC guidelines. So the Secretariat has published that mapping exercise so that you can see which of the 2006 IPCC guideline categories map to which categories in the CRT. So it's quite a comprehensive document that we have published in the website that you may wish to refer. And then towards the end of the presentation, I have a link where you can access this document directly. And this slide just gives you a time deliverables and timelines of how we have reached here. So last year in August, we released the first version of the test version. And then there were two more releases of the test version in November and in April. And in June, we have finally released the final version of the reporting tools. And during this whole process, we have been, since the release of the first test version, we have started providing the training to the parties on using these tools, and we continue to do so throughout the year. And in this slide, this was already briefly mentioned by Fernando and Brittany a while ago, but here I'll just like to recap the reporting requirement for GHG inventories under the Paris Agreement. So the Article 13 of the Paris Agreement says each party shall report the National Inventory Report. And the Decision 18 CMA1, the MPGs said that the further elaborated that the National Inventory document would consist of the National Inventory Report. A National Inventory Report would consist of the National Inventory document and the common reporting table. So your inventory would have a textual part explaining the methodologies, assumptions, and all of the your national arrangement and so on in a National Inventory document. And the common reporting tables are a set of Excel worksheets that contains the numerical information for your GHG inventories. And Decision 5 CMA3 in Glasgow adopted the format of those common reporting tables. So these common reporting tables are a set of Excel tables. So these are used for the electronic reporting of the GHG emissions and removals. And these CRTs are a set of Excel workbook. So there are 60 worksheets for each reported year. So if you are reporting an inventory for the year 1990, then you'll have 60 worksheets with these three colors, orange, green, and the blue, for each reported year. So the one on the left-hand side, the one on the left-hand side of the screen is the sectoral background table. So this is where you will enter the data in the white cells. So you will see there are different colors: white, orange, green, and blue. And the gray is where you are not supposed to enter any information. So you enter the information in these white cells. In the orange cells, the information from these white cells would be aggregated to the orange cells. And these orange cells are further summarized into these green tables in the middle. So there are the sectoral report tables. There will be one sectoral report tables for each sector. And then from these green tables, the information is further summarized into these blue tables, which are the summary, cross-sectoral, and trend tables. So if you see here, even though it looks a lot of Excel worksheet with a lot of information, but the amount of data that you need to enter are only in these white cells. So that means in these worksheets, there are less number of white cells compared to the orange and the blue cells. And as you move from left to the right, the amount of white cells gets less because the information is summarized from the left towards the right. So this is how these are the three sets of the table. So it was also presented by Brittany earlier, like level 3, level 2, and level 1. So these are the three levels of tables that are organized in the common reporting tables. And to give you a context, so these sectoral background tables are prepared for each sector. So energy, IPPU, agriculture, LULUCF, and waste. For each sector, we have these sectoral background tables. So there are multiple sectoral background tables for each of these sectors. And from these sectoral background tables, the information are summarized into the sectoral report tables. So for each sector, there are one sectoral report tables. As you can see here, the middle green tables in the middle. And from these sectoral report tables, they are then further organized into the summary tables, trend tables to see the trend of the whole of your inventory, and some cross-cutting tables like key category analysis or the information on the method and emission factor that you have used. So that one. So this whole set of information is prepared for 1 year. So if you are reporting your inventory for the year 1990, so you will prepare all of these tables for the year 1990. And then if 1995 is your another year for reporting, then you will have the same sets of Excel table for the year 1995. And then for another year, if it's 2000, then another year 2000. So for each year that you are reporting, there would be these sets of the 60 worksheets. And then if a party reports these information for the whole time series from 1990 until 2024, there would be around 2000 worksheets that would be submitted. And it is very difficult or almost impossible to compile all of those 2000 worksheets manually by filling the data into each cell. So it's kind of a quite tedious task. So that is why we have developed these ETF reporting tools, which will help you to generate these sets of Excel table for all of these years. So when you use the tool, all of these tables so you will only enter the data in these white cells at the background at the sectoral level. And then all of these tables would be generated based on the data that you have entered for submission to UNFCCC. And now having said so, and so these are the Excel tables. So this is the ultimate table that you need to generate and submit it to the UNFCCC. But there are ETF reporting tools, then there is IPCC inventory software, and then you may have your own national inventory system. So, and then this slide explains you what is the relationship between all of these tools, and then what does the reporting tools does. So the reporting tool, the ETF GHG inventory reporting tool does not do any estimation of the GHG emissions. So this is only for the reporting of your GHG emissions. The estimation of your GHG inventory has to be done in your national system. So you may have your own national system to do the estimation of the GHG inventory, or a party may use IPCC inventory software to estimate the GHG inventory. So IPCC inventory software follows the 2006 IPCC guidelines, and you can use tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 methods to estimate your GHG emissions. So once you estimate your GHG emissions, either by using the IPCC inventory software or using your own national system, then you go into the reporting tools and then you transfer this data from these estimated GHG emissions from your tool to the ETF reporting tools. So there are various ways how you can transfer the data. So one way is to manually do it in the UI, in the user interface. So you can directly type in the data into the ETF GHG inventory reporting tools. But seeing the amount of information that you have to enter there, it may be very tedious to work on them manually by entering the data in the application. So you can also transfer the data using the Excel file from your Nestle system to the ETF reporting tool. So you can use the Excel as a means to transfer, or you can use the JSON data exchange format. So which is a structured data exchange format that you can use to transfer the data from your Nestle system to the ETF reporting tool. And this JSON format is also the means of the data transfer from the IPCC inventory software to the ETF reporting tool. So once you have compiled your inventory, there is a feature in the latest version of the IPCC software. You have a feature to generate the JSON file for your inventory, and that JSON file can be imported to the ETF reporting tools to transfer your data. So once this data is transferred and once you have filled all of the data in the ETF reporting tools, then the tool would help you to generate the common reporting tables. And this tool will generate these sets of Excel files. So 60 worksheet, and for each year, it will generate these Excel files. So this is how the GHG inventory workflow might occur in a country. So today, I'm not going to show you how, because it's with the time constraint and it's a lot of information for you to process in an online webinar. So today, I'm not going to go into the tool and show you the features. When we all meet in Bogotá, I'm going to log into the tools. I'll show you the key features, and then we'll also provide you access to the to the training version of the ETF reporting tools, where you can also log into the ETF reporting tools while I'm doing the exercises. And we have prepared around 7 to 8 exercises for us to work together, so that you'll see how you can enter the data manually in the UI, how you can transfer the data using Excel, how you can transfer the data from the IPCC inventory software to the ETF reporting tools. So all of these exercises we'll be doing together when we meet in person in Bogotá. And the training session in Bogotá, so it will be focusing on the ETF GHG inventory reporting tools, and it will be hands-on training exercises. So I would encourage you all to bring your computer to the training, since it's a hands-on. So we'll be logging into the computer and then working on the reporting tools. And then if you already have your national data, and if you want to see how you can transfer your data from your national system or from your Excel file to the ETF reporting tools, I'll be happy to work with you and show you how you can transfer those data from your national system to the ETF reporting tool. And at the end of the training session, you'll be able to access the ETF reporting tools. You'll be getting familiar with the user interface. You will see how you can create an inventory, specify the settings for that inventory, and then customize the categories to report what are the categories that you want to report, modify the data using in the application as well as using the Excel. And then you would also be able to generate and download the common reporting tables, those sets of 60 Excel workbook that would be generated by the application. And then we'll also have an exercise to work with the JSON and interoperability with the IPCC software. So this is what we'll be doing in person in Bogotá. And this is my last slide, where I have copied the link for the very useful resources that you may wish to refer before coming for the hands-on training in Bogotá. So it has the ETF reference manual. So I think this presentation would be shared with you after this webinar. So all of these documents I have provided the web link here, so you can access this ETF reference manual, ETF handbook, also model MPGs for the ETF, the common reporting tables, all the format of the Excel workbook you can see in in these common reporting tables. And then the mapping of the 2006 IPCC guidelines and the CRT. So this is a document that was prepared by the Secretariat last year, and you will find it useful if you want to see how the 2006 IPCC guideline categories are mapped into the CRT. And I have also copied the link for the 2006 IPCC guidelines if you want to refer to the IPCC guidelines, and also the link to download the latest version of the IPCC software, which is the version 2.92. If you want to practice the interoperability from the IPCC inventory software, then you need to download the latest version of the IPCC inventory software. So if your country is using the IPCC inventory software for estimating the GHG emissions, and then if you want to transfer the data from there, so I will encourage you to download the latest version of the IPCC inventory software so that we can show you, and you can also practice how you can transfer the data from the IPCC inventory software to the GHG inventory reporting tools. So with this, I conclude my presentation here, and then I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you. Over to you, Brittany.
Thank you so much, Nasheed, for that presentation and the overview of the tools available. As you all see, we will be getting into the specific exercises based on the national system that your country is using. You'll take a look at the different scenarios, right? So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise them to Nasheed, whether it's we still have quite a bit of time if you'd like to address specific questions or maybe clarification on the requirements prior to the training that you would need. Well, I suppose everything is clear and everyone is ready to get into the full swing of the in-person training. So as Nasheed mentioned, don't forget to bring your laptops, and yes, definitely do take a look at all of the resources available, especially those who are on the inventory compiling teams of your countries. So along the way, if you like, you can put your questions in the chat, and whether we raise them today or raise them in person, we'll have time for them. But I'd like to say thank you, Nasheed, for that presentation. We'll really look forward to seeing the the practical uses of the ETF reporting tool, and how it could make the work easier for some of these small teams, as these are mostly small teams, small inventory teams in this Caribbean region. Thanks so much. I see we have a chat from Maria. Okay, thank you for the resources from our colleague from Guyana. Okay, well then, without further ado, then I'd like to reintroduce Fernando to give us what are the next steps, instructions on the following stages, what we need for the next phases of the training, right, of the in-person training. So over to you, Fernando.
Thank you, Brittany. As we have mentioned before, we expect that this training will have a lot of interaction, and as such, we are expecting that it will not be like a more theoretical and full of presentations, but rather try to use the different elements that are available, like using real materials. We are expecting to use already existing published BTRs or NIRs or BORs. We want to share experiences, especially among you. We think that is super valuable, the situations when we meet in a single place, and we have the opportunity to have a chat or to share a coffee with a colleague and to check or to ask what they are doing, how they are addressing some of the elements that are missing. And as such, I think this is a very valuable opportunity for performing these interactions between countries. And also, as a third element, I think is very valuable in this training is that we want to provide some feedback to resources that you have been working. I mean, either if you have like a draft document you want to share, a work plan, an inventory improvement plan, or a QA/QC plan, we will be delighted to have a look together with you and to give you some friendly comments or soft comments so you can have the opportunity to produce a final submission that will be much appreciated by the UNFCCC. We want as I mentioned in my previous presentation, to give you a good feedback on the contents of the tables. As such, we are considering to use CRT tables, the clean versions, but also since some countries are starting to submit also Excel versions of the report tables before the UNFCCC software was available, we will make some exercises in order to check what are the contents of these tables and how can we make a better use and understanding of them. As such, we will also work with the JG inventory management tools. The JG inventory management tool is a new addition. It's an addition that is part of the MPGs and introduces elements that before the MPGs era, they were not mandatory, but now they are mandatory. So we want for you to have like a better understanding of them. And also can you use for your benefit? I mean, all of these elements are created to have a better inventories, and as such, we want with you to have the opportunity to make them more friendly in their use and in their reporting. As I mentioned at the beginning, we want to give you the opportunity if you want to share some documents that you have, even if they are in draft mode. I think they are very valuable, and as such, we are requesting for you to fill this table before the starting of the training. So Brittany will circulate among you this table so you can send her back filled in advance, and this will allow us to see where we should put some more emphasis or which elements are more likely to be relevant for your presentations. In addition, as I say, if you have a draft of your next inventory, or as some colleagues mentioned, they are starting the preparation of the chapter of the inventory, if you want to bring it and ask in a bilateral way how to approach some elements, we will be more than happy to do this with you during the days in Bogotá. So in summary, please fill the table that Brittany will circulate with you, and send to her in advance. It's not a complicated table to fill, but it will be very valuable for us in order to understand in which stage of the process you are, and what are the elements that are more valuable to work in detail in Bogotá. Thank you very much, and over to you, Whitney.
Thank you. Thank you, Fernando. And yes, I'd like to reiterate that definitely the time in Colombia when we do get to meet together rarely with all our countries would be a great opportunity um, to discuss, bring your documents, your draft documents, your improvement plan, your QA/QC sheets. This is a good chance to discuss directly with experts, but also with amongst yourselves, right? You know, um, there's a lot of experience and value that can be gained from seeing the colleague and how your colleagues work and seeing how
Ya, mira, desde la agencia que nos mueve los viajes nos dice
their
que
system.
básicamente no pueden encontrar
Paulo?
un
Paulo,
vuelo que de regreso desde
That's okay. So definitely it'll be a good opportunity to meet with our colleagues, both from the Caribbean region and then also from other countries that have experience in the Latin American region to gain those experiences and also yes, it's an opportunity to get the hands-on feedback you like, but also if you're not yet at the stage where you have various of the documents available, like your improvement plans or your QA/QC plans, yeah, it is an opportunity to be open and absorb from the different experiences from those who have them provided. So we will be sharing that template with you for you to provide before the training. So you can look out for a communication from us on that. So we are coming to the end of this session on this webinar. Thank you, Fernando, for telling us what the next steps are. And if there are any questions or clarifications that you have on that, please let us know in the chat or raise your hands, and we'll be happy to clarify. And we will also be in communication leading up to Bogotá as well. So the doors are always open for questions that you may have. Well, then, with that said, I would like to ask one last thing of all participants before we close. Before we close and before I hand off to my colleague Tim from PATPA to close us off, to please help us in giving us a little bit of feedback on this webinar. And let me see if you can see this. My screen is shared. Not as yet. Okay. So we'll be going to menti.com. Join us at menti.com. Use the code. Use the code 56969126 on the screen, or you can scan this QR code. To get in, I'll also put it in the chat. I'll also put it in the chat where you have access. So let me know if you're in. The first question would be, I see some of you are in, so we'll wait for a few others to join. So the first question is, what are your expectations from the upcoming in-person training in Bogotá based on the sessions today and other expectations that you might have? Please let us know. We still have a little bit of time to tailor things as much as possible to the needs of the network. Okay, hoping to learn more about the process and share information with other professionals in the Caribbean. Excellent. Hands-on exercises. So yeah, there'll be lots of hands-on exercises and interpersonal exchanges, learning more about the CRTs, learning how to complete the National Inventory Report properly. But definitely we'll be looking at the how-to aspect of reporting and of the National Inventory Document and CRTs, hands-on experience of ETF reporting tools, improving data compilation, interaction with colleagues is always a plus, assistance where there are challenges being experienced in compiling. So yes, so we will have also avenues to hear experiences from countries in their experiences, and also on the sidelines, as Fernando mentioned, in our coffee breaks, etc., and amongst ourselves. Okay, excellent. Thank you, colleagues. And then just the last question with satisfaction. How satisfied are you with this webinar? And we will take it from there. And you can keep filling this in. The link will be active also until after the webinar has ended. Okay, I see some thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in Bogotá. So on my side, I will now hand it over to Tim to close us off until Bogotá. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brittany. And again, I will keep it short. Thanks a lot, Brittany, for moderating this webinar and for all the presenters for the very comprehensive presentations, and to all of you for joining us on this webinar. And we're really looking forward to being with you in Bogotá. And see you soon and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Brittany? Brittany?
Hi, Fernando. Yes, still here.
Yeah, just wanted to check if you know when is the next meeting we'll have to discuss the agenda?
I think it's next week. 1 second, Fernando. Some participants
you.
are still. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I was just trying to remove the last two participants. It's okay. I'll have to delete the recording, the part of the recording anyway. I think it's next week. It's 1 minute. Let me look at my calendar.
Because it doesn't appear in my calendar.
I think Valeria was supposed to send another, or maybe it's Tim. LAC. I have it next week. I have on the 17th, so it seems a little bit late. Oh no, it's the 11th. So I have it as next week, Wednesday. Next
And
week,
what
Wednesday.
time?
That's 7:30 my time, so that's 3:30 p.m. in Copenhagen.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see it on your calendar? If not,
No,
I can
it's not
I can add it. I could
meeting.
share it with you.
Yeah, super.
I'll send it to you now. You should have it. Yeah, I just sent it to you.
Okay,
Okay.
super.
Yeah.
Super.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for another webinar. Another month, another webinar. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
The templates are in the folder from the previous from Tokyo.
No, the template, you just have to take the PowerPoint
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
cut and just cut the slide that you need, and then
Super.
they can fill it
Okay.
on the same PowerPoint and send it to you back.
Okay. Okay, good.
Mhm.
I'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye. Bye.